Episode 7 of the Wheel of Time Amazon Prime show has been released. Now, of course, this is going to be my kind of initial raw reaction to the episode. So, of course, if you haven't watched it yet, I would suggest turning off because I'm going to talk about the entire episode and spoil everything within it. And, of course, with the beginning, I might spoil who this certain person is. But yeah, with that all being said, let's jump right in with my review. So, to me, this episode was the perfect kind of course realignment to me personally from the previous episode. Now, at the time with episode 6, I couldn't really figure out what it was that I didn't necessarily like with the episode. And I've kind of, I think, when watching the 7th episode, I've kind of figured out what it was. And I feel it just, if you look at the entire series as a whole to date, it felt kind of completely out of time with the rest of the episodes. And I think if you were to watch each episode, separately, you wouldn't necessarily think they're the same shows. And I think that's what was really jarring to me about episode 6 more than anything else. So yeah, that's a bit of a digression there, or I digressed. But yeah, let me get back into 7. So to me, this was one of the more kind of natural feeling, authentic, real-time episodes that they've done thus far. Everything, within this episode felt fully and wholly like I was in the world of the Wheel of Time once again, no matter kind of what era or what time frame in terms of the show and its handling of certain scenes were. I just felt like I was watching a Wheel of Time show once again, which I'm really happy with. Of course, that beginning to open with that, I don't think I was expecting that. I thought we would jump right into the rays again, but no. We started on the slopes of Dragonmount with that Aiel who was pregnant, which obviously we all know. I loved the handling of this scene as a whole. I think she was absolutely badass. I loved how even though she's still pregnant, she was able to absolutely slaughter and best. How many companions was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 companions. So just imagine if she wasn't in the middle of labor, none of them would have gotten anywhere near her. And I think that was just so cool to see an Aiel or Father as my showcased on the show in such a manner, even while pregnant, which I thought was like amazing. It really showcased just how deadly the kind of race of the Aiel are in general, that no matter the situation or the circumstances or kind of the terrain that they're in, because of course these are very much kind of, how do I say that, what's the right word here? Unusual grounds for them to be, fighting other people on. They still obviously had the advantage. And what I also loved while watching this scene, of course, was something that really struck me, and it made me think of a scene within, I believe it was The Great Hunt, with Matt when he had his fight with Galad, and he bested him. And I cannot remember the warder's name off the top of my head, but he basically explained how the greatest, blade master of all time, if I'm not mistaken, was bested by someone with a spear. And of course, Matt bested Galad with a quarterstaff. And this really kind of showcased, and that in itself, how that really played out. Of course, I'm not saying all these men she absolutely destroyed and killed were blade masters, but that kind of notion, and while watching it, took me to that place. But yeah, everything, just the general pacing, the editing of the episode just felt natural. It didn't feel rushed. It felt everything had its, natural place in the episode. Everything that went further along within the episode felt like it was just meant to be there. Everything was, getting expanded upon to the reveal right at the end was really nicely worked out in the episode. I loved how they've kind of accelerated the relationship blossoming between Nynaeve and Lan, and the changes they've made within that. Obviously, within the space of television and, you know, adapting a book to television, you cannot have such a prolonged kind of period where you're waiting for these two people to kind of get together. And so I have no qualms with them accelerating that process, and there are slight changes to Lan and his character, but I still feel the core and essence of Lan is right there, and their relationship as a whole is there as well, which I thought was, you know, beautifully acted out. And to hear the subtlety of Mashiara being played during these scenes between Lan, Nynaeve, and of course when Lan entered his kind of adopted father, his adopted father's home, and to be actually have Malkiri people from his nation that is no longer there, still alive, I thought was a really cool touch to see included in the show. And it just gave a sense he still had his own people, no matter just how small they are, as in terms of the numbers. It was like 5 of them or 6 of them, including Lan. I thought was really nice. And that was kind of, I thought, really kind of emotive and moving scenes, just to see how that all was playing out, how they welcomed Nynaeve into their kind of home, their family, and learning the backstory of Lan and what, you know, Daishan means, and everything to do with that was really nicely done. Of course, before I get into the bit that I absolutely hated, we have to, of course, mention the intro into Dara and seeing Lord Aegulmar and, of course, Uno and Lord Amelisa. I thought what I really loved. Now, a lot of people, or some people, thought the kind of crow/raven or whatever you want to call it on the back of him was more to do with his sigil or whatever, but it could have been. But I took it in a different manner, where of course we know they are right by the Blight border, and so they have Trolloc skirmishes all the time. And of course, as we know in the books, crows and ravens are kind of minions of the Dark One and the Shadow. And I thought, in case, and it's just the way I perceived it, I thought that was kind of the, you know, Lord of Dara, Lord Aegulmar, took it as, let me kill this crow and I'm going to kind of wear it as part of my outfit to kind of show the his people, and of course the Shadow, this is what happens if you cross my people. And I thought that was kind of cool, if that's the intention behind that. Now, of course, it could have been the other one, what people talked about, but that's how I interpreted it personally. And of course, we cannot not mention the ways as well. I thought that was really well done. It's a little bit jarring, if that's the right word here, where, what I'm talking about is just the general, like, platforms that they were walking on, or the bridges, if you want to call them that, where they had these kind of stones kind of on the platform. I always just imagined and kind of pictured the kind of platform very smooth, and at the end of each of them there was pillars, and then you'd move on to the next one. So that was a bit interesting to see their interpretation of the ways being brought to life for the show. Now, with that being said, let me get to the scene and kind of this whole story point that I'm sure you all kind of hate along with me. And it's this love triangle that isn't even existing in the show of Perrin, Egwene and Rand. I don't get it. I don't understand why we still have that there. If it's just being done to have, in a sense, Rand and Perrin have an argument in that moment, that's kind of stupid. You don't need that love triangle to exist for Perrin to get angry at how Rand was talking to Egwene. Perrin has spent a hell of a lot of time, you know, in the space of this first season, where he spent a lot of time with Egwene, especially with the two of her on, and so he's gotten to know her, I would say, a little bit better. Not that they didn't already, of course, because they spent years with one another, but that's when you can see kind of their relationship grow a bit more and have a bit more of a bond, if you want to say it like that. And then that would explain why Perrin got angry. But this need of changing Perrin's story to include Layla, I think having this love triangle cheapens that whole point of having Layla in there. What is the point of having Layla if he had a thing for a green, but then chose Layla, got her pregnant? That's what I thought. I thought she was pregnant at the time. I could have been completely off on that. But yeah, I just don't like that. I don't understand what this need for this change was in this whole thing. It just seems pointless to me. Anyway, let me get off that. I don't want to spend too much time on what I didn't like, which was literally just that. Everything else I loved. Actually, there's one more thing that I'll get to now, which I'm a little bit, I don't know whether it's me and I've forgotten how this person, talks and interacts with the people, but I was a bit put off by the portrayal. And of course, that was the introduction of Min. So we have her obviously in Dara, and she's obviously working in the kind of, if you want to call it inn, or just where people will go and eat, whatever. I sometimes forget what the bloody names are when I'm speaking about stuff. Don't know why. Anyway, so I just found the performance, took me aback a bit. The way she was, in a sense, almost kind of hostile or kind of dismissive, not being polite. I never have kind of imagined, or the way I've read Min and her character, to be like that. And when I was watching it the first time, I was like, ooh, what's going on here? And even the second and then the third time earlier this morning, like an hour ago, I still have the same feelings. I can understand why, because she's always being asked if people know of her powers and what she can do, and so she has that kind of this barrier put up for new people, and then we kind of see her melting that barrier away later on in the episode, and she becomes more of the Min as I remember her, or maybe I'm remembering her character wrong, but I felt it was a little bit off with the way that performance was done with Min. But yeah, I did love the way they went about showcasing her talent. That was really nicely done. It was really interesting how they kept certain viewings back and not kind of, in a sense, showcased them to us visually. And I think that's for obvious reasons. For one, the newcomers don't obviously get spoiled, and two, us book readers, we don't necessarily need to see that showcased to us. But yeah, I thought it was really cool to see all of that sort of thing being brought onto the thing. And then we get to kind of like the end and the last portion of this episode, and I loved how that all kind of came about. It was kind of done in 3 stages. We have Rand kind of being woken up in the middle of the night, and then we finally get a little bit of the scenes that were shot that we thought were being introduced maybe in a later date to a kind of extended cut of these episodes. But I think what's obviously been planned all along was to include them in this kind of reveal of the Dragon Reborn being Rand still. So he wakes up, then we see the flashbacks of when he was looking after Tam and taking him back to the 2 rivers after the Trolloc attack on the farm. And we finally see that playoff. And that's in tandem with kind of the ending and the reveal of that final companion being Tam, which was obviously obvious to us all that know the story. And seeing him, help Tigraine deliver the child, which is something that really pissed me off as a person and as a man. Now, if I'm in a battle, I know she's an Aiel and I know everything behind her. She probably would have tried to kill you, but look at how that sequence played out. She was running away from the battle, trying to run away from everything that was going on, and these men were going to attack her. And I was like, really? Are you really men attacking a pregnant woman in the middle of her labour? I'm like, come on, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem right to me. I was like, what the fuck are you guys up to here? So then to see Tam do what Tam does, and we knew he would do, was kind of cool to see it. And I think obviously it struck a chord with him seeing this pregnant IE woman in labour, and he finally did the right thing, which all those other bloody men should have done. But hey yo, I kind of understand why and all that, blah blah blah. But yeah, that was a real cool thing to segue into Rand. Then finally hearing during the sequence in the waves when Machin Shin was talking to him, saying, "You are the Dragon Reborn, you've known all along," and whatnot. And of course, as well as that, we have him going back to Min, and we kind of see her melting away that kind of initial, in a sense, rudeness, or kind of staying at arm's length from these people that she doesn't know. And she basically confirms he's the Dragon Reborn, and we get the story of the first time she had a vision, which was in Tar Valon, and it was of Tam in Tar Valon, and it's, everything was explained, and then they go off to the Black, and they finally get to the Black Border, and we end the episode. But yeah, I thought this was one of the more really well structured episodes. Everything had its natural flow and ebb to it. Nothing seemed out of place. There was no kind of jarring edits or transitions into different scenes. Everything felt like it had its natural place in the timeline of the episode, in terms of the edit of this episode as well. And I think looking back at the episode previous to that, with the kind of issue of having to write out very abruptly Matt, I think that had a little bit of an impact on the episode. So yeah, but yeah, all in all, fantastic episode. It's my favourite to date, and I cannot wait to see what we have in store for us in the final one. Man oh man, to think we have one episode left, and then we've got to wait most likely a year after waiting 2/3 years for this first season to come out. It's kind of sad, but we have loads of stuff to kind of go over that will keep us tied over until the second season. And of course, I'm sure we're going to get leaks and set photos that come through from random passers-by, and just information that the community will kind of find out to keep us kind of tied over until the second season. But yeah, okay, so that is kind of, I said this was my initial raw reaction to the episode, but it's nearly 20 minutes long. But hey, that's me. When I get into kind of a talk, or I'm doing something, I can then start to talk forever. But yeah, that is the end of my initial raw review to the episode. I'd love to get your guys' take on this episode as a whole. Where would you rank it in kind of your list of favourite episodes from 1 to 7 thus far? Thank you all for watching, of course. Like the video if you've enjoyed it, and if you're new around here, consider subscribing as well. Alright guys, I'll catch you all later today in another Wheel of Time episode 7 video.